What's your biggest turnoff in guys?
Probably when they don't work out, go to the
really?
gym and stuff, yeah.
White men.
So what do you guys prefer in a guy?
Really rich,
Really black.
at least 6'5".
6'5"?
Yeah,
Oh.
She's 6'5". He's got to be taller, you know?
you know? Yeah, just lots of money, really. Yeah.
Like a yacht and stuff?
Yeah. That kind of thing. Can buy me fancy things.
Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Women are going viral on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the places, complaining about life, complaining about their work and money and dating and all the things. All they're doing is pretty much just sitting around and complaining about everything. In the meantime, guys have already caught on. Guys have caught on, or at least most of the guys have caught on, and they're turning things around, and they're winning. This is a good, feel-good story, let me tell you. Many moons ago, many months ago, sometime, I don't know, probably 2 years ago, a year ago, I don't remember, because I talk about kind of similar things all the time. I said, with the internet, with the information that's out there, with the content creators that are out there, this is going to bleed over into the zeitgeist. Like, this is going to become mainstream, where guys catch on to the game and women don't. But it's not just about dating. It's about guys catching on to the scam that is college. And I don't mean all college, but I'll speak to that. It's about the scam that when the governments tell you they hate you and then turn around and say, hey, why don't you come work for us and we'll give you shoddy pay and terrible food. Already, there are huge shifts in the world across government, military, college, workforce, dating, in just a year or two from men saying, you know what, I'm sharp. I've picked up what's going on and I'm out. I'm going to change the way that I look at the world. So I got plenty of videos, a couple of stories to read for you. I took a few days off because it's kind of like watching a clown car get in a really bad accident. Like, it's a little bit funny. It's kind of sad. It's kind of crazy. And you don't know quite how to think of things. That's how, when I read the news, I don't know how to think of things. Because one night I go to bed feeling awful about what's going on and the prospects for our future as a civilization. And then the next day I wake up and I go, everything's going to be fine because there's so many people aware of the craziness that's going on. So I flex back and forth between the two depending on my mood. Well, this last week, there was so much news coming out, I decided I'm going to take the week off and just kind of sit back and twiddle my thumbs and watch the world burn, as we joke about. So first one I have, this gal, if you remember the video I did a couple months ago, and if I can remember, I'll put a link up over in the corner here so you can go see it. This is the woman that a dating matchmaker said, you have too many issues, you have too much baggage, you're too strong, and men want more domesticated women, almost like she's a feral hog. But the matchmaker said, you're undateable. And I did a video on this. This is the same woman. And she describes meeting a guy out in the real world. I don't think, the matchmaker didn't take her business. So she meets a guy out in the real world. And I want you to see how women can twist something into a negative that could be a learning moment for themselves and maybe why they're failing in dating. I think she said she's mid-30s, 38, something like that. She certainly looks that age. They could take something that's a learning moment and instead she blames it on the guy. Interestingly enough, though, the response from the guy shows he understands the game and he's got better things to do than play the game. I'll play this. I'll pause it when I want to interject something because I'm going to want to interject a lot.
This is how you do not plan a freaking date. I am here gonna show you with receipt. I had been on one date with this man. I think this guy is great. I had such a nice time with him. We had so much fun. We had a lot in common.
Okay. It's the same voice that was in the other video. Everything ends on an uptone. It's like she's talking, I don't know, down to you. Blah, 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 blah. I could not listen to that all night. I would be pulling my hair out. pulling my hair out. I would not be able to put up with this. But she explains she has a good time with this guy. It's a second date. She was excited for it. Now watch her completely sabotage it in the matter of 5 texts.
Could not wait to go on a second date with him. A week or so later, he finally texts me and is like, hey, are you free Sunday for brunch? I'm like, yeah, great. That Saturday night, he sends me this text, are you still up for brunch?
Okay. They go on the date. He gives it a few days to stew, or about a week. She says about a week later. He texts her on a Saturday. Now, let me replay that just to make sure I have it clear. Let me make sure so I don't mistake this.
I'm like, yeah, great. We had a lot in common. I could not wait to go on a second date with him. A week or so later, he finally texts me and is like, hey, are you free Sunday for brunch? I'm like, yeah, great. That Saturday night.
Okay, so that week, sometime during the week, he said, are you free for brunch this Sunday morning? And she says, yes.
He sends me this text, are you still up for brunch? Yes, I'm still up for brunch.
He was trying to solidify the plans. If I ask somebody to do something on Sunday and it's Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to follow up with a little reminder of, hey, don't forget, we got plans. Are you still up for it? I do this with my guy friends. Like if a guy friend says, hey, Saturday, we're going to go, I don't know, shoot paintball or something or other. Friday or Thursday, I'll hit him up and say, hey, we still doing that on Saturday? And yeah, he'd be like, yeah.
I could come your way if you know a good spot. Okay, let me do the heavy lifting for you, buddy.
He didn't ask for you to make the arrangements. He didn't ask for her to call and make reservations. He didn't ask for you to pay for it. He asked, I could come your way if you know a good spot, meaning you don't have to drive out here in my neck of the woods. I'll come to you and make it easier on you. How about you choose some place that you like? If you know a good spot for brunch, hey, let's go for it. Like your lady's choice. And she finds a way to make that negative and calls it heavy lifting.
So I give him a list of these places. He says, oh, the Dutch Eye. Not even sure what that means. So
she sends him a list of 4, well, how many places is it here? She says, I've been dying to try Comfort and Floyd, the Dutch, or El Puerto de Loreto. And she says, not sure if any take reservations, etc. Now he says, oh, the Dutch Eye. A-Y-E, not E-Y-E. Now, A-Y-E means yes. For those of you that are older than 14 and know anything about English history or the English language, or I guess that would be Scottish, Irish, I don't know. They just hear a lot of, oh, I am big ora, right? So she says it's a negative.
a list of these places. He says, oh, the Dutch Eye.
Now, he said 2 O's. Now, I know this is like boiling everything. This is like boiling stones. But this stuff matters when you're trying to communicate. O-O-H is not O. O-O-H, what he sent is O or ooh. The Dutch Eye. He's saying, oh, the Dutch. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. But what she could have done is replied to him saying, is that good? Is that a negative? Do you want to try it? Did you want to pick something like normal human people do? It's called a conversation. It's called talking. You could pick up the phone and say, hey, I wasn't sure. Now, he could have done the same, but he thought she probably read his text okay, so he didn't read into it too much. And she left him on read. She didn't reply.
Not even sure what that means. So then that morning, I get a text from him. Howdy, how does 2 sound? I never heard back from him the night before, so what do I say?
Hold on. She says, I didn't hear back from him the night before. She left him on read. She read his message. And then, because you see that there's a little time break in here, and it says today at 9:45 a.m. He said, oh, the Dutch. Aye. Or maybe he did say, oh, the Dutch. Aye. No, me lassie, I don't want to go there. Either way, she responded with nothing. Now, as most dating coaches, guys, men's content creators tell you, it's like a game of tennis. You put the ball in their court, they put it back, at least when you're initially starting to date. Because if you keep sending, tennis balls at them, they're going to feel overwhelmed and run away. So he replied back, and then he didn't hear anything, and he didn't say anything. But she's going to say he didn't say anything more, so it's his fault. She left him on read.
I heard back from him the night before, so what do I say? Oh, when I didn't hear back last night about a reservation or anything concrete, I made plans for this afternoon. You cannot, for a second date, try and make plans the morning of. So what is his response?
He didn't make the plans the morning of. He made it a week ago. And then he reminded you the day before. And then he offered to come to you, and he offered to let you pick the place, like being a gentleman. And then because you misunderstood a response, you left him on read. And then when he followed up and said, well, how about 2? Because he didn't hear anything from her the night before. Now she's like, oh, when I didn't hear anything back last night about a reservation, she left him on read, remember, or anything concrete. I made plans for this afternoon. How?
Plans the morning of. So what is his response? Okay, cool. He, I think, got the point. You missed out is what happened. Sorry.
His response to her was, okay, cool. Not, how dare you? What did I do wrong? You're such a witch. You're all these off. No, he's just like, okay, cool. And in his mind, he's thinking, I avoided a problem here. I avoided a problematic person. He learned. He has learned. Now, maybe he has so many, fish in the sea, he just decided to recast his line, and by 4 o'clock this afternoon was balls deep in something else. That's probably the reality of it, especially if Miss Thing here was all excited to go out. But instead of learning a lesson out of this, she says he learned a lesson. Don't talk to me. Don't treat me. Don't do that. She twisted everything he did. And you hear the lie in her own words. Because she said it was last minute. He didn't follow up. He tried to make it hard on her. This is why she's still single at the tender age of 38. This is why. And she will continue to be like this until she's single with cats. Let me move on to the next one here. This next one's an image that I found on Twitter that was being shared around. And it's explaining why there aren't any kids. No one's having kids anymore. No one's getting married anymore. No one's even dating anymore. And in some ways, it's an ideology gap, meaning that men are becoming more conservative and women are becoming more liberal. And I talked about this, I think, in the very last video that I did. And if you look at where a lot of the population drop is happening, it's in the West. If you look, women are becoming much more liberal, which is the pink rise and all of these. And then the blue is more conservative. And you can see that, like in the UK, men were going up liberal that's the far right one here. Men were going up more liberal like the women were. And then they changed course and started heading down. Germany, men becoming more conservative, while women, look at this huge uptick since 2010. Same thing here, huge uptick since 2010, where men are pulling in the opposite direction. Same thing even in South Korea. And what was interesting is this is a full video I was going to do just talking about, but I realized, my last one I did politics on this, so I don't need to. But that gap is making so that the core values of what women hold dear and men hold dear are completely different. Just men as a whole and women as a whole. And it doesn't mean that a conservative guy can't find a woman or a liberal woman can't find a liberal guy. It just means that the groups are separating slowly. And I thought this was kind of an interesting thing, but this is what I'm talking about when I say that that the information's out there, just women aren't doing anything with it. So this is from someone named Kristen Van Nest. She's only got 22,000 followers. She's a comedy writer. It's not a huge following, but even she's finding this data now and talking about it. And she comes to the realization, well, I'll play it and then you can, let me unmute it here.
Your soulmate, or just simply get through a date. According to a new Financial Times article, there is a growing divide between the ideological views of men and women, playing out on a global scale. We hear Gen Z are very progressive, but it's more nuanced than that. It turns out Gen Z women are even more progressive, but Gen Z men are more conservative than boomers.
I'm going to put a pause right there. Gen Z men are more conservative than boomers. What's going on? These young guys are coming up in school, female teachers, the school administration likely being mostly female, repeating men are bad, especially toxic white men are bad. Women great, women strong, women powerful, women wonderful, women all the things. And the women are like, I am totally on board with this. And off they go to being more liberal. Where men say, you know, this isn't for me. I'm not on board with this. And they bounce. And from, I know that you can't see this, especially if you're just listening or watching on a phone, but this graph says share of people who agree with the statement, women seek to gain power by getting control over men. And this is done by age and sex. They say over 70, men think slightly more than women that's true. But if you look at as you move to the left, it's younger people. So this is 70 plus. 60 to 69% say both men and women are agreeing with that statement. 50 to 59, even more men and slightly more women. 40 to 49, men, even more men agree, and slightly less women. 30 to 39, a ton of men agree. Now, when I'm saying ton, it's like 15% of the population. It's not a huge percentage. But when you need to kind of control everything and have the message proliferate, you've got to kind of have everybody on board. And there's now more and more pushback. To where, you know, back in the 70 plus age bracket, only about 5% of people agreed with that statement. But now, while women are still at about 5%, which is less than before, which is a negative, it means women are saying, no, that's not what we're doing, and men are saying, yes, it is. In the 18 to 29 bracket, almost 15% of men say, yep, that is totally true. Men are learning that they're being manipulated and controlled and told what to do. And the women are the ones that are doing it. But women are saying, no, this is fine. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Keep going. Which is causing the gap, the widening gap in the men and women problem, which is the divorce and the kids and the families and everything else.
Women ages 18 to 30 are now 30 percentage points more progressive than men their same age. Why is this happening? Some say it might be due to the Me Too movement.
No, it's not the also me movement. It's not it. Well, no, let me correct that. That's partially it. Guys do worry about by people saying that they're doing something inappropriate when regret counts. A look, if you're in the UK and you look at somebody for too long or makes them uncomfortable, or you sit too close to them, or you're breathing the same oxygen as them in a room, that is getting crazy. That's part of it. But the other thing that I think is very important too is that men are being shamed for asking women out. Men are told that they're the problems. Women say, leave us alone. And men have started to do so. That's what's happening. And the reason why men are becoming more conservative is because men are not as emotional as women. Men are more logical. And logically, they see things aren't working out well, so stop being so emotional about it. Let's sit down and figure out what's going on so we can fix it. And the women are going, and running out of the room or pointing their fingers at men saying they're bad. I think that's a bigger portion of it. Because if I'm in the dating world today, I'm not so afraid that somebody is going to say, I did something wrong because I'm probably going to meet them in public in a coffee shop or go on a date in public, and I'm going to make sure to feel them out so I can tell if they're a little, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or if I can, okay, they're like a well-adjusted normal person. That's what this dude here that was going to go on this date with this woman found out, thank goodness, in time. All right, moving on.
Feeling some men might be threatened by it. One time I left a date early because the guy said he had marched in 2 pro-life rallies, and I said we don't have the same values. This is why we can't.
That's fine. That's fine. But hey, you know what? That's why you're struggling to find somebody to date you that, is masculine and strong and is the type of guy you want, because those guys tend to be more stoic and conservative and less emotional.
Have nice things, but we can have cats.
The last part there, she says, who says we can't have nice things, but we can't have cats? Yeah, you got your cats. Men are learning, and this is going to be something I keep repeating after every story, because men are learning what women are up to, and they're saying, I have no interest in this. We do not see the world in the same way. And if that means the ends of the species, well, that might be the end of the species. All right, this is from The Desirable Truth. Here you've got a gal that I think most guys, when they see, and her face, it's hard to tell, but her face is not unattractive. She's slim. She's petite. She looks to be in good shape. I don't know of many guys that would say, I'd love to take a woman out like this. I'd love to go on a date with a woman. She's going to explain what happens when guys don't learn what's going on and haven't figured out the game yet.
What's your age?
26 on February 22nd. So I'm 25 right now.
Are you single?
I am single.
Why do you think that is?
Because I want to be. I have a couple of boyfriends. I hope they're not watching. Maybe like 4 or 5. So I guess I'm single. I am single.
She calls 4 or 5 guys boyfriends and then still says she's single. They're not boyfriends. They're situationships. And she's extracting resources from them. That's all she's doing. And in trade, guys are probably getting what they want out of her, if you know what I'm saying.
I mean, but what's it like dating 5 people at the same time?
It's just like juggling. You have to be talented.
Are you sleeping with all 5 of them?
Not all of them. Depends on the situation.
Why not?
Not all of them. Pause. Depends on the situation. So more than likely, she is sleeping with all 5 of them, but it depends. One of them that's hot or good looking or is great in the bedroom, he doesn't have to do anything. That's the 2 a.m. booty call, and she goes over for that. For other guys, it's probably dinner and a vacation, or dinner and something nice, buy her a new Gucci bag, whatever, and she'll put out for that. A professional is a professional. That's really what it sounds like to me.
Not all. What's the deciding factor?
Well, there's different guys for different situations. Some guys, I just want to go to... I forgot that I'm recording this.
Some guys you just want to what?
There's different purposes for different tools.
One's a shovel, one's a knife, one's a fork.
Yeah, honestly, the one that I'm fucking, never gonna get in a relationship with him. He doesn't have the job, the finances, none of that.
So why even open yourself up to a guy like that?
Great dick.
The one that has no finances, no job, no future, like pretty much the bad boy with no aspects for anything, that's the one she's sleeping with. The other guys she's using for dates or coffee or whatever, she's probably putting out to them too. But even if she isn't, these guys are actually spending money and time and resources trying to get to know her, trying to date her. Do you think if any of those 4 or 5 guys knew she was banging some other guy in the backside, that they'd keep dating her? No. So what happens? She sleeps with the bad boy. She eventually has a kid with him, or she burns herself, her sensory receptors out to the point where she can't feel anything for anything anymore. And she just ends up using men for their resources. The guys these young guys will catch on. Because again, she seems bubbly and interesting. She's in good shape. She looks very nice in this little dress. So she's going to get attention, but there's always going to be something that is better or more. And this is the girl that goes out with the guys that have money and have resources and have the things, and she strings them along and eventually breaks their hearts. The bad boy doesn't care. It's free. He's having his fun with her, and he doesn't have any aspects for the future, and she doesn't care because it's not a long-term committed relationship. So he's fine with it. She's fine with it. Who are the losers of this? The guys that are putting in effort. The guys that are trying to take her out to dates and get to know her and to spend time with her and maybe find out if they have something in common, and they're going to go somewhere. Now, ultimately, it's easy to say, well, those guys are losers. They're not losers. They just aren't aware of the game yet. And when I mean a game, I'm talking about the game that she's playing, this ridiculousness. Those guys don't know the game yet. They're going to learn after it happens to them over and over and over again, and they find out they're one of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 guys. They'll learn. Is she going to learn? No, she's not going to learn a lesson from this at all because she's getting everything she wants. And when you get everything you want, it's called, I think it's called attractive person. I know you guys will correct me, but there was a study done that was, and I don't remember the actual terminology for it, but there's a bias towards good-looking people. And good-looking people have a much easier life than unattractive people. And that is a real, or in the world of men, tall versus short, thin for women, thin versus heavy set, all that plays into it. And because she has the looks and she has the ability to do what she's doing, she will continue to do so because to settle for any one man is beneath her. Because she dated Teddy that has more money and this guy that was great in bed and this guy that had the fancy sports car. She can never, it's an alpha widow. She will become the woman like this, where she's complaining at the tender age of 38 that this guy screwed up, even though he pretty much did everything you're supposed to do to try to get a date with somebody. He didn't screw anything up. She did. What about the next one? I have so many of these to go through today, and I didn't mean to make them all pile up, but they do have something in common with each other, which men have caught the game of everything. Men are sharp. If a man fails to adjust and to adapt quickly, he's done. He's out. He'll be homeless. He'll starve to death. He gets eaten by a tiger. A remote opposite tribe comes and sticks a spear in him from 300 feet away. Something happens to him. Men have to adapt. Women haven't had to adapt because they've always had men to do the adapting and then give them an easy life. Well, they're on their own now. They just don't realize it. Now, if you look at this gal, she probably at one point in her life was very attractive, but now, and she's got a large chest, she looks to be slim, but she's already started to do the Botox in her frozen forehead. Now she has the perma, like Joker eyebrows where she looks like she's surprised constantly. She's got the lip filler. And women do this because they think that it makes them look good. But men don't agree with that. There's the Erin, I think her name is Moriarty or Erin Moriarty. She's the gal that was in, if you watched The Boys on Amazon, good TV show for the first series or first season or two. She was very girl next door, plain Jane, but very pretty. And then, man, the fillers and the sculpting on the cheeks. And at the tender age of, 23, 25, 27, she looks like Skeletor. She goofed her face up. These women think that they need to keep up with some imaginary thing that men don't care about. The same thing with high heels and the $500 or $800 purses and $1,200 shoes and the tons of men don't care. We never have. But it's about women showing that they have more or a better provider or are prettier than other women. They're competing with themselves. So she got caught up into that. And now the real truth comes home for her because men learned, women didn't.
I guess I'm too ugly.
I was talking to this guy. It sounded almost too good to be true, and I was planning on going to go see him. I had a whole trip planned, and then he told me that I look ugly without makeup and that I don't look like the same person. And this is me without makeup. I only have eyebrows and eyelashes on, like a little bit of lip gloss.
This is where it goes south. This is where it goes south. Did he actually say, "You're ugly"? Did he say that? I don't know. Some guys would. The guy that is the player and is the popular guy, if he's got other women that are good looking and are knockouts and he has lots of choices, he might have said, "You're ugly." Most average guys, again, would not say to someone that looks like, because her face is symmetrical. She doesn't have any deformities. She's not ugly. Most guys, well, I mean, you may think so. I think most guys would probably say, she's a little too fake for me, a little too made up, a little too plasticky, a little too frozen, a little too Botox, whatever. And then she says, "This is me without makeup, except for my eyebrows and my eyelashes and maybe a little bit of contouring and some lip gloss." Like, that is not you without makeup. This is what most guys would say they want their woman to look like with makeup.
Makeup, I only have eyebrows and eyelashes on, like a little bit of lip gloss.
She's got acne marks right here that it looks like she's covered up.
I feel like fucking shit. I guess I'm literally on here just seeking out validation that I'm not ugly. I think that's what I'm doing right now, just to help me feel better.
There it is. We keep saying women are going to social media for validation because they're not treated like the pretty princesses they are in the real world. And that just happened to her. And now she's upset. Instead of reflecting, maybe he was talking about your personality. Maybe you use so many filters in your post or in your dating app that you look like a supermodel, and then you show up looking like a 7 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10, and he's a 10 out of 10. So he can tell you, "You're not my type. Like, you look way different." Because if she did the glamour shots and everything else, guarantee you that she probably looked like a supermodel. But instead, she probably looks closer to, I don't know, average, but now she's got the frozen face. And if I rewind this, look, her eyebrows don't go up. I mean, they go up and down a tiny bit. Like right here, that is Botox forehead.
Eyelashes on, like a little bit.
There's none of this. I'd give her $1,000 if she could do this right now with the eyebrows up and down. And the lip filler. That's not what men want. Will she learn? No. She's not going to learn her lesson. She's not going to be done with a lip filler and quit fooling around with the Botox and then take some actual real pictures of herself and put her on social media. No, she won't do that. Instead, she goes to social media for validation. And what's going to happen? A bunch of thirsty thimps, we'll call them thimps, thirsty simps, are going to say, "Oh, you're beautiful, and you're gorgeous." Guarantee you she has bikini pictures on there because, again, if you go back here, she looks like she's got a pretty stacked chest and she has a thin waist. Guarantee you there's bikini photos on her Instagram and all that stuff. And she'll get all the thirsty guys on there and say, "Oh, you're gorgeous. Oh, I would die for you." And then the women will say, "Girl, he's a pig and he doesn't know, and men are awful, men bad, blah, blah, blah. You're beautiful." And she'll keep right on keeping on. She'll join the rest of the cat ladies. They haven't learned the game yet. Now, I'm going to get this a little bit out of order, I think, but I'll try to get it in the right order here. Oh, no, this was the right one. So now women are making games about dating. Do you think guys are making games about dating? Now, guys will make games about, I've heard of 2 games guys play. Number 1, they see who can sleep with more women than the other guy. It's a thing that happens. Hate it or love it, it's men being men. The second one is in college frats, a lot of times it would who could bring the biggest girl, like the heaviest girl, to a frat party. And whoever won the big girl prize, and that was a goof. And yeah, it's kind of mean, but it is what it is. These women have created a game where all men are I'll let her explain it.
I made a game, and it's how we keep our roster in check. We called it Guilty Until Proven Innocent.
Roster. It's how we keep our roster in check. Not our boyfriend, not the guy we're dating, the roster. Women are out here acting like they're the coach of a football team and they're sleeping with all the players. Got 11 men on the roster. I got 5 men. Where's that video? I got 5 men on the roster. All the men on my roster. They're using men. Now, you can equally say, well, will men use women? Yes, men use women to sleep with them. Do you think your average guy, the guy next door, people like us, do you think we have the opportunity to use all these women? Nope. That's the 5 to 10 percenters. But the difference is these women, she's mid. Like, she's a 5. And so her roster of men probably include 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s to do things for her, to take her out to dinner, to go on dates, to try to get to know her, to try to put some effort in. And then the 8s and 9s that happen to swing by on a Saturday to go to Pound Town, those guys, those aren't on the list because they're not potential anything. They're just situationships. So now that roster, and this is how they have to keep them in check, keep you men in check.
In check. We called it Guilty Until Proven Innocent, and so this is how it works. Basically, every man we're talking to starts at death row. They're automatically on death row because men are guilty until proven innocent. The more well-behaved they are, the less serious their crimes get. So basically, we make these little characters that are the people on our roster, and then we can move them. And we have to justify to the other person why they deserve to go up the spot.
Can you imagine being judged by a mid saying that all men are guilty until proven innocent, and you have to work your way up for our little game, and you have to put in all this effort for me to just get you up to being okay? Imagine a mid telling you, you better work to get me because you're just not good enough and all men are guilty. This is what they're doing. And the best part about this is I started my channel in 1999. I think it was January of 1999, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's about 5 years old now. Did I say 1999? 2019. 2019, I started this channel. So it's 5 years my YouTube channel has been on here. In the beginning, I got a lot of hate from women. In the beginning. And just because they weren't used to hearing a man's side on anything, and of course, anything a man says slightly critical of a woman is misogyny, of course. But as time has gone on, not only have I stopped hearing from women complaining about what I'm talking about, but I've gained women that are subscribers. About 5%, at least according to YouTube metrics, about 5% are either women viewers or women subscribers. Now, that's not a high percentage when you think about it, but when you think about my content, it kind of is in many ways. Why? Why over 5 years are now women listening to my content, and why did everybody stop giving me hate? Because I don't have to dig to the deepest, darkest trenches of the internet anymore to show you women behaving badly and women being ridiculous and all the things that we talk about. They're doing it for us. This is why a lot of the videos you see, instead of like going to the deep, dark recesses of Reddit, I can just go on Twitter. I won't go on TikTok. You couldn't put a long-range hole puncher to my head and get me to go to TikTok. But other people do it for me, and they post it on Twitter, and then I scrape the tweets and talk about it with you guys. This is, I don't know, Instagram, I think, or whatever this is, Facebook. It doesn't matter. Or actually, this is probably Twitter. I don't know. The point is, they're putting it out there. Oh, you think women are bad? Look at this. Here you go, guys. And now it's becoming so overwhelming that, I kid you not, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, and Fox News started talking about this stuff. And actually, The Guardian, MSNBC, ABC, and CBS have started talking about it just in a different way. And in the fact that they can't control us anymore, it's bad. And we're going to get to that story right about now. This is from The Guardian. And they say Gen Z boys and men more likely than baby boomers to believe feminism is harmful, says a new poll. Boys and men from Generation Z are more likely than older baby boomers to believe that feminism has done more harm than good, according to research that shows a real risk of fractious division among this coming generation. 1 in 4 UK males aged 16 to 29 believe it is harder to be a man than a woman, and a fifth of those who have heard of Andrew Tate, a fifth of who have heard of him, now look favorably on the social media influencer. The polling of over 3,600 people found. Tate, the British-American former kickboxer who has 8.7 million followers on social media platform X, of course, now they have to throw in all the things he's accused of to try to paint him as a bad person. The other person they find is favorable. Best-selling author and Canadian academic Jordan Peterson. He's seen favorably by 32% of 16 to 29-year-old men, compared with 12% among women of the same generation. Peterson speaks up for the demoralized young men and says Tate offers forthright aggression as an alternative to cringing defeat. On feminism, 16% of Gen Z males felt it had done more harm than good. Among over 60s, the figure was 13%. The figures emerged from Ipsos polling for King's College London Policy Institute and the Global Institute for Women's Leadership. The research also found that 37% of men aged 16 to 29 consider toxic masculinity an unhelpful phrase, roughly double the number of young women who don't like it. So this poll, they say polling for Ipsos College London's Policy Institute and Global Institute for Women's Leadership. The figures emerged from there. So I don't know if that's who led the poll or who they talked to people that were involved with these groups. I don't know anything about it. But the fact that you've got a third of people saying Jordan Peterson's favorably, roughly a third of people, a little bit lower, but a third of people finding Andrew Tate just fine, and 37% of men who consider toxic masculinity as unhelpful, I think we're moving in the right direction. There is a pushback to this. Now, I don't even agree with everything Andrew Tate says, nor do I agree with everything Jordan Peterson or any of these other, tradcons and anything. That I don't agree with them too, or I don't agree with them on everything as well. But the point is, more and more people are at least saying, look, they're not the worst of the worst. Like you keep saying they're horrible people, they're really not. And you haven't proven otherwise just by calling them names. People are also finding that, yes, they're being blamed for things, but you're really not coming forward with any proof, I see. And once you have proof, then, maybe people will change their minds. The numbers are still quite low, though. But it doesn't take a majority to change everything. Otherwise, look at the woke. Look at what the left is doing, tearing down statues and changing TV shows and Disney rewriting its movies. Those are only for the very vocal 10 or 15%, which is a minority of the population. The difference is the kind of more of the red pill thinking, and I don't mean red pill in the men's sphere. I mean more like people that are aware of what's going on in the political sphere. They say, I'm not going to protest. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to petition. I'm not going to say anything. I got work. Like I actually have a job, unlike these people. I have things. I'm just not going to participate in your games. So even if it is only 30% of men and 15% of women that decide, well, we're not in on this, if there's a strong enough percentage, even though policies can go certain ways, they'll push back. And a good example of this is look at the French farmers and the Dutch farmers and the German farmers and the France, especially around Paris, the Parisian farmers. Look at the pushback they're giving on the government. That farmers are a very small percent of the population. But they'd had enough, and now they're pushing back. And now Paris is running out of food. Store shelves are going empty because the farmers have decided to shut it down for being treated unfairly. The strong group that is willing to speak out against this stuff, you're not going to be able to move them. So if you can't move 30% of men and 15 or 20% of women, you got problems. Your message is not working. And as more people see the pushback gaining strength, they'll be brave enough to come on and say, I agree. I didn't say anything before. I agree with these, and I'm okay to push back. This is what learning is about. This is what being strong is about. And this is where men are continuing to push forward with it. Again, of all the respondents, the view of Andrew Tate as very favorable is like 5% maybe. Somewhat favorable might be, 7 or 8. Neither favorable or unfavorable is probably 15%. No response. And then somewhat unfavorable. And that probably falls in around, I'd say, 40%. Or like, he's either good, very good, no response, not favorable or unfavorable, somewhat unfavorable. Somewhat unfavorable means they have room to change their mind. Well, very unfavorable, obviously, is the mass majority. But notice something. Minorities here at the bottom, they actually are kind of on board with him. Now, I don't know if this was in the UK or where this was. This says UK adults 16 plus. So the minorities are based. They're like, look, we know you're trying to, something's up here. The men, pretty close to 50% here. It's the women. And when you see all respondents here, well, that's why it's not, because women are very, very opinionated. They say this is a new and unusual generational pattern, said Professor Bobby Duffy, director of the Policy Institute. Normally, it tends to be the case that younger generations are consistently more comfortable with emerging social norms as they grow up with these as part of their natural part of their lives. Larger proportions of young men still think it's harder to be a woman today than a man. That feminism has done more good than harm have an unfavorable view of Tate. But Duffy said there's a consistent minority of between 1/5 and 1/3 who hold the opposite view. This points to a real risk of fractious division among this coming generation. That's where I think things get down and dirty. When the upcoming generations, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, when they get into politics, when they get into business, how do you keep this population together? At some point, I think it would fragment off. And either that or women will get in enough power in these governments that at a certain point, men will put their foot down. They'll say, nope, no more. We're done. We're done. And the women will keep pushing, and there will be a lashback. And when that lashback comes, it's not going to be good. It's just not going to be a good thing for society. 1 in 6 British men say age 16 to 29 says feminism has done more harm than good. Done more harm than good, no response, had little effect either way, and equally good and harmful. When you add all that up, which is very bad, no response, didn't really do much either way, or it's equally good and bad, all those numbers are above 50% for all respondents. All respond, and for the does more good than harm, that is less than 50% amongst all the graphs. Not good. So Gen Z and Gen Alpha are definitely breaking more conservative or less progressive, although women are still leading the way. And this bifurcation is what's going to bring it all down. I'll wrap things up with this. I'll read the article first. I'll just touch on it for a second. Why are so many young men are abandoning college degrees? They said young male Hispanic high school graduates are turning away from colleges. So it's not just a white thing, it's young Hispanics as well. While 42% were in attendance in 2011, 33% in 2022. That's male Hispanics. That's dropped 10% in a decade for college attendance because they realize, A, the jobs that are available for this, the cost of the college. I can go be like, there's a lot of blue collar jobs that are paying very, very well right now. And yes, they'll come and go with the economy, but a lot less so than the middle management jobs and the do-nothing positions, which I'm going to talk about next, actually. They say white males had a substantial drop as well. While 49% attended college in 2011, the number moved to 40%, so a 10% drop-off. The gap was significant for white high school students. Female white graduates were most likely to enroll at 50%. They say, why are they fleeing? They have higher skepticism that higher education gets you anywhere, and that's what we're going to talk about next. And that it's too much money, it's too much debt. The higher ed system has worked itself out of a job. By losing focus on the mission of preparing students for their career, they've become a non-factor or even a negative factor in helping job seekers find a job. And I did a story on this, I think, probably 6 months ago. Because, number one, colleges hate men because it's a bunch of left wokeists. And number two, it's very expensive. The debt's a lot. And when you get out and you go to these woke companies, they say, well, we're not hiring white men. So why bother getting the degree? Why getting in debt? Okay, you can take all the women and everybody else, and we'll do the grunt work. We know we're not going to lose our job in a recession. And those men that traditionally would buy the new car to keep the wife happy, and the big home for the wife and the kids, and the diamond ring, and the candies, and the flowers, and the chocolates, and the blah, 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 they're out. They're buying like video games and laptops. They don't have any, they're driving their cars till they die. 15, 20-year-old cars. Hey, it's got a radio in it that works well. It hooks up to my phone, so it's got Bluetooth. Or I change the head deck out for $300 and put in a couple new speakers, and for $500, a sound system's good, and I got nav or a camera or whatever. And they're driving till the wheels fall off. Most women don't want to do that. Guys are usually fine with it. The only reason guys buy the fancy cars most of the time is either A, go fast, or B, get women. You can go out and buy a Triumph Street Triple R like I had. You go to 60 miles an hour, which is 80, 90 kilometers per hour in first gear. It's $12,000, $13,000 motorcycle. Oh, it might be more now. You can go plenty fast for relatively inexpensive. You don't need a second seat. Don't need a sports car to impress a woman. Guys are just not going to spend their money. Men have learned. Women haven't. They're still getting all the degrees. It says here, white men no longer want to fight for a nation that scorns them, from the Telegraph. This is just from 18th of January, 2024. It's by Robert Clark. I'm not going to bother reading through this, but recruiting for white recruits, male, in the military, both in the United States and the UK, have dropped off a cliff. Because guys are saying, you hate us. You don't like us. You don't want us here. You're saying we're bad people. Then fine, you go put your life at risk for our country. I'm not going to do it. That and, probably 50 or 60% of the leftist men are too busy putting on makeup and doing their nails to want to be put in the military. They have very bad formatting on this because you can see the stretched photos are not my fault. Gosh, get a web developer. Guys are just like, I'm done with this. But it didn't take long. It just took a couple of years of the military saying this stuff, corporations, businesses. And it's been in the colleges for a while, but guys were like, I can put up with this for 4 years in college, but I can still go get a great paying job and, doing whatever. Now it's like you go down, sit down in math and engineering, and they're like, okay, here's why President Trump is bad, why baby deletion's fine, and why women are strong and powerful. It's like, isn't this like math or chemistry? What are we doing in this class? And guys are just like, I'm not going to go into debt for that. And so guys are tapping out of this stuff. And what is the proof of this? Is here's all these women. Okay, there we go. Here's these women complaining. I went and did what you said I should do. I went to college. I got in debt, and I went out and tried to get my job, and I can't find a job. Number one, companies are learning that women like a lot of women that are coming out of college are problematic. They want to protest, they want to complain, they want to do all the things for all the people and all the causes instead of showing up and getting a paycheck and doing your work and yeeting out of there and getting the F home. So companies are now actively avoiding them.
My name is Lohani Santos. I'm 26 years old, and I am absolutely terrified of life. As you know, I'm unemployed, and yesterday I went around like looking for jobs and stuff, and I am so scared, and I am pushing through everything. Like, I am showing up, I'm being persistent, and I don't take no for an answer. And I think that's what's gotten me to where I am in life. Another thing I want to share that I'm really proud of, I'm the first person to graduate college from my entire family. English is actually my second language. My first language is Portuguese. My third is Spanish. The reason why I expressed a disappointment in getting minimum wage jobs, nothing bad to say about minimum wage jobs. That is the most, I'm so respectful of everyone because I am.
You can tell she's woke. She's already, look, if you make minimum wage, I respect you and I have nothing bad to say about you. And if a guy tells me I have a minimum wage job, I'm like, what are you doing to better yourself? How are you going to step it up and get up the ladder? You don't want to be a minimum wage worker. That's nothing against minimum wage workers. It's just like, dude, that's your foot in the door. You better be hustling. But she's already, I'm second Portuguese and
Everyone, I am you. I've been working minimum wage jobs since I was 16 years old. First thing I did was show up with my resume to Tommy Hilfiger, and I said, can I please speak to a manager? So 16-year-old me was doing what 26-year-old me was doing yesterday. I'm honestly like, so proud of myself. This is insane. And so anyways, my disappointment, I am not above any job. I am not above any opportunity. I am just simply human who just thought that going to college, getting a degree would get me further in life. Maybe I'd like, I don't know, I just honestly thought that I would have had a lot more like of my dreams accomplished, which was going to school for acting. I know some of you
She went to school for acting. A 4-year degree in acting is not going to get you anywhere. So now she's back to doing what she was doing at 16, just as aggressively. That's great, but she's not going to take the minimum wage job because now she's a college graduate with an acting degree, and she's probably hundreds of thousands in debt. I haven't listened to any of these, by the way. I listened to the beginning of them, but I wanted to save everything for like a live reaction. I know you don't care about these individuals, but there's a story here, which is colleges went woke. The government gave out loans that cannot be canceled, can't be bankruptcied out of. They're unforgivable loans, like you must pay them. Even if you file bankruptcy, you're on the hook for this money, or it will destroy your credit. So the government came out with those loans. Colleges, because the government's funding them with these loans, said, well, we're just going to raise the price to ridiculous amounts, and we're going to hire a bunch of woke people to work for us because it's like, I don't know, adult daycare where they all get the free money. And they start teaching the woke policies. And so women are walking out of college with the debt and a worthless degree and can't find a job, whereas men are turning around, hustling, working. Again, we don't want to talk about all, but a lot of guys, they're out there working and hustling and doing their thing to put bread on the table. They're not in debt. They're getting actual work experience, and they're not woke. They're not going to protest. They're not going to, like, just give me a check, I'll do the work, and I'll go home. And every employer is kind of like, yeah, that's what we want. But you can see already with the acting, and you can tell she's acting a little bit in this, she's going to be a problematic.
Expressed that maybe I shouldn't have picked that major, but when you're 18 years old and you're deciding your future and you have dreams and you think, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up, that's what you think. You think, I'm going to study acting. I'm so glad I did. I'm so thankful I did because I feel like I've met so many people along the way.
Great. Met so many people along the way. Enjoy them as you can't pay your bills and you're working at Starbucks. Another one. You're going to see a theme here with it because there's some guys out there that are complaining a little bit. But for the most part, they don't, because they're not sitting on TikTok looking for the validation. They're actually out there hustling, working 2-3 jobs with a roommate.
I graduated from my university in May of 2023. It is now the end of January 2024. I have still not found one job that will take me. I graduated with a degree of journalism and media communications with a minor in Spanish.
Worthless. If you want to be a journalist, you know what you do? You start a YouTube channel. You start a podcast. You start writing articles. You maybe make a Substack, and you just start putting good content out there. And you make there are so many, I mean, you look at so many people here on YouTube and doing podcasts right now. They didn't go to school for it. They just started writing. So when you ask somebody like this, okay, but what have you written? What work have you accomplished? Where's your podcast? Where's your video? Oh, I don't have one. I want to work for somebody that'll pay me to do those things. No initiative, no drive.
Tell me, out of the thousands of jobs that I have applied over the months, tell me how none of them care. Everyone is looking for workers and no one is hiring. The positions that I'm applying to are positions that work for me with my limited experience being a new graduate, okay? But the people that these companies are looking for are people who have been working in this field for like 5 years. I'm sorry, no one with 5 years of professional experience is going to want to work at your job with that position, okay? Because that position...
Do you hear the entitlement? Do you hear the entitlement? The, okay, like, so no one, you can hear it in her voice. I'm sure that comes across in an interview.
That you are giving that's part-time assistant of a marketing whatever, no one who actually has experience is going to go drop down a level to work at your store.
The interesting thing about business and corporations, they know how many people apply for a job, what skill level that they need for that job, and what she's thinking is her degree will get her in the door at a certain salary. But somebody that comes in with maybe a 2-year degree, maybe just a high school degree, but they've got some actual, like, here's some articles I've written, here's my Substack, here's my YouTube channel, here's whatever, here's me doing media. And they say, okay, well, here's what the salary is. And that person says, okay, because I know you'll train me and I'll learn while I'm giving you the product that you're paying me for or the work that you're paying me for. And then in the end, I'm going to ask for more money based on my new knowledge. And you're probably going to say no, and then I'm going to move to a new company. That's how the work world went in almost every place I've ever worked, is get your foot in the door, learn, then ask for a raise, maybe get one, maybe not, and then use your newfound experience you got from that job to jump to another one. It's called cliff jumping because it's like a valley, and you go from company to company to company, and each jump you go up some. I've worked, I don't know, lots of places. My first job ever was $3.35, $3.25 minimum wage when I was 15, and the last job before I finally retired, was at 48 or so as a network engineer making $125,000 a year. No college degree. How did I do it? Cliff jumping. More management, more people skills, hiring skills, interview skills, technical skills, communicate, blah, blah, blah. She's coming in trying to, get a leg up, fresh out of college, and she, again, worthless degree. What about this gal? Yeah, and I've only got one more after this one.
Holding resumes, a stack of them, so that I can go in person to places and say, are you guys hiring? It's honestly a little bit embarrassing because I'm literally applying for like minimum wage jobs and some of them are being like, we're not hiring, and it's like, what? This is not what I expected. I graduated college with 2 degrees in communications and acting.
Communications and acting. That's her degrees, communications and acting. And as what happens when a company hires a minimum wage worker or someone that's, let's say, I'm just going to use McDonald's. When somebody hires somebody that works for McDonald's, it does take some time to teach them. Here's the fryer, here's this, here's that, here's your job, clean this, do this. And they want to see somebody that busts their tail. And yes, you're busting your tail for minimum wage. But when they eventually need a shift manager and they come to you and say, hey, instead of minimum wage, which I think was $725-ish now. They come forward, we want a shift manager. It's kind of like what you're doing now, but also you've got enough experience here. You'll do the time cards and the schedule, although manager usually does that. You'll do the schedule, and you just make sure the shift runs, and if anybody has any problems, you'll handle it. And you do that, and if you bust your tail, then you get assistant manager, and so on and so. And then before you know it, you're a manager of McDonald's for $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and if you work really hard at it, you might get there in 3 to 5 years. Doesn't sound glamorous, but that's why I'm using that as an example. Take the guy that started at minimum wage, and he really proves himself. And he proves himself really well. And maybe he gets that bump to shift manager or assistant manager, and he applies for management, and he doesn't get it for $50,000 a year. But now he says to Wendy's, to Burger King, to, I don't know, Papa John's, whatever, hey, I want to be a manager. I was shift manager here, just the manager's not going anywhere. Now, that could or could not be true, but you can say that. They just don't have any manager positions, but I'm ready to make that move, and here's why, and here's what I can do, and here's what I'll prove to you. I'll need 3 months on the ground just to learn your system in this company of doing it, and then I want a management position. And I have both friends of mine and myself gotten positions like that with a different company, jumping from assistant manager to manager. It's happened. It can happen. And so that guy that just has nothing, no height, and I say guy, it could be a woman too, but women usually aren't that aggressive when it comes to working and making money. That guy aggressively goes for it, and now in 3 to 5 years, maybe 6 years, he's making $50,000-$60,000 a year, but he's debt-free. And she, with her 2 worthless degrees, can't find a minimum wage job because they know she's going to leave. They know she's still looking for other jobs that are worthy of her, and they know she's a lost cause. She's not going to stick around. Now, let's say she finally finds that job. Now let's take young man here who's now a store manager at, I don't know, a fast food restaurant. He can now also go apply for restaurants in hotels. He can apply for restaurants on cruise ships or management positions, restaurant management positions. On cruise ships, he can go restaurant management down in, I don't know, wherever. I'm trying to think of another city that might be fun, like somewhere down in Mexico at some resort, at a Hilton resort. He can apply to be a manager down there. And he does that. And then you see what I'm talking about. I don't want to talk your heads off, but you get the idea. Now, because he's got food and management, he can parlay that into management. And he can parlay management into managing almost anything if he's smart, good communicator, has hustle, and works hard. I know this because this is literally my life. I jumped around with a bunch of positions. When I was young, military, I worked security guard at Sears, I worked in fast food a little bit, and then I started with a company that was in finance as like a CSR, customer service rep. I took payments for loans, I answered the phone. But I went from there to loan officer, and loan officer to debt collector, and then senior debt collector, and then manager, assistant manager, and then manager. And then I jumped from manager into jewelry and blah, blah, blah. And you work your way up. Hustle, initiative, intelligence, go get them, creativity. None of these women have it, but the guys are getting it because they're not going to college anymore. They're not wasting their money going into all this horrendous debt for a college degree that doesn't get you anything. And yes, if you say, but I went for engineering or I went for mathematics or I get you. I get you on that. If you're in the STEM fields, college is a must. But you better pick a good college because now the Harvards and the Yales don't mean anything anymore. You'd be better off at a smaller engineering. Lastly, I'll leave it with this one. I think this is the last thing I have. Yeah, this is the last thing I have for today. Same story you always hear. But instead of hustle, instead of finding a way to make it work, women are just crying on the internet.
Why is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660. So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment.
She works 40 hours a week, makes $2,000. Her rent is $1,660 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Now, why does she have a 2-bedroom apartment by herself? Now, again, I haven't watched all the way through these videos. It was just I caught them on Twitter with people kind of being like, lol, like, make some sacrifices. Get a roommate instantly. Just like that, instead of $1,660, you're at $430 for rent, or $830 for rent. $830 leaves you a lot. That's $830 you're not spending, plus you're splitting the utilities. If it's a dude like the dudes that I knew growing up, which was kind of blue collar, we'll figure it out, let's get this done. And I did this with a friend of mine. I slept in the living room. He had a friend renting one room, and he lived in the other. And then morning time, we all went off to work, so all I did is pick up my blanket off of the fold-away couch and stuff it in the closet. And then if anybody had dates and all that over, well, if a date came over and some guy was going to be macking out with a girl on the couch watching movies, me and my buddy Ed, we would go out and go to the mall or do something. And then when I came home after he was done getting hot and heavy with his girl, unfold the couch, crash out there. I think it was like $600, and I think I was paying like $2 or $3 to crash on the couch. But if you set it up, you could like have the living room as like a bedroom, as long as there's a bathroom that, you know, people didn't have to step over your head. There's so many creative ways to make it work. But young people don't know this today. They've been spoiled. They've been told you get whatever you want. So, because if she split it 3 ways, now you're looking at what, $550? Not exactly, but something like that. You're looking at $575 a month for your rent. Piece of cake. And you're splitting the utilities 3-way. Piece of cake. Easy living. And you don't have to live that way forever. You live like that until you get more experience and you better yourself. But they're so impatient. They want to live like 50-year-olds. They want to have the money and drive the cars and have the retirement savings like a 50-year-old when they're 25 and they're 3 minutes out of college instead of making some sacrifice.
And an extra $300 a month. Like, it doesn't cover my phone, internet, food, you know? So not only do I not have any extra money, but just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either.
40 hours a week exhausts her. Guys, truckers, you guys that are welders, sanitation, electrical, snow plows, like all these jobs, oil field rig workers. How many of you get to do 40 hours? And if you are doing 40 hours, how much of it is back-breaking physical labor? This girl sitting at a desk in air conditioning doesn't have enough time for life because she's got to be at the office from 8 to 5, and that's it. Most guys I know look for shift work, look for extra overtime, have a second and sometimes third job to get it done. These snowflakes, they're so soft, they're melting on a 33-degree day.
Like, I get off work at 5:30, come home, and I'm just so tired. I'm so tired that, like, anything that I need to do outside of work, I then just push off to, like, the weekend. And I'm like, I'm just too tired to do this after work. I'll wait until Saturday. So then I end up with so much to do on the weekend that...
These are the people that they're going to tell you are replacing you, guys. These are the women that are replacing you at work and at the job, and that you shouldn't be there because you're toxic and male. This is our next generation of people running businesses. We're gonna turn into like South America, where it's siesta time for 2 hours, 3 hours in the day. I think Italy does it too, where it's like, between the hours of 11 and 2, don't even think about getting everybody. They're eating lunch and drinking some wine and taking naps. If I'm getting your country wrong, apologize. But I do know there's some South American places that, like in Peru, where I went, they're like, like you maybe find somebody that shows up by 10. They're there from 9 or 10 till noon, and then you might get them for an extra hour before the place closes. Like, that was some of the Latin American countries I went to. That's what we're going to have here in the United States if women like this are in charge.
That ends up having to be split into 2 days. So I have to do stuff on both Saturday and Sunday. So then I don't get a day off. I don't get a day to relax. I don't get to decompress. So it is really like working 7 days a week, constantly.
Because she doesn't see. She works until 5:30 and is so tired she doesn't feel like doing anything after work. So she puts her chores and her personal life and whatever else she needs to deal with, she tucks that away on Saturday and Sunday, and then she justifies it by saying, I'm literally it's like working 7 days a week. She ain't gonna make it, man. She ain't gonna make it. And as befugly as she is, she'd probably still find a guy that would wife her up and say, just stay at home, I'll take care of it. You just pop out some kids and take care of the house. And that's the girl that complains that he never does his fair share of the housework. I guarantee you.
And I don't want to do that anymore, right? Like, I don't care how poor and miserable I would have to be.
That's a lie. That's a lie. She could go out right now and find a good, hardworking plumber, electrician, sanitation worker, roofer, window washer, anything. You won't be poor. You just won't have all the fancy things in life, and he'll probably take care of you. See, that's the nice thing. Women have the bailouts, the men don't. She could still find that. It's not even an option in her mind.
But I literally can't have a place to live without this.
Get roommates.
You know, like, I don't know what to do. I'm not made for this.
Oh, but you had it so good. You were made to, find a guy. He'd take care of you, stay at home, pop out a couple kids, raise them well, take care of a house. I know that works out. It's been done for hundreds of years. She's not made for working. Well, this is what you ladies wanted. You begged for it. Enjoy those salty tears, fellas. This is the consequences of your own actions. She won't learn from it, though. She won't learn. Do you think it's in consideration for her to get a man or marriage? No.
I don't have the money, time, or energy to enjoy my life outside of work, and I don't know what to do about it anymore,
These are the same women that want communism. Oh, well, everybody else will do the work and I'll just sit around and do my artistic projects. Okay, good luck to you. Good luck to you. Look, fellas, I show these videos to you for a couple reasons. And if you made it in this far, I appreciate you listening to my whole rant today. I show you these for a couple of reasons. To understand that, number one, women are just not adapting. They're not getting it. They don't know what's going on. They don't realize that society, businesses, colleges, men, military, everything figures out what's going on just by it existing and surviving. If a company can exist and thrive through bad times, they know what they're doing. If it fails, it fails, which is why you're finding a lot of these businesses failing right now. Same thing goes with dating. Same thing goes with military. Same thing goes with government. Same thing goes with socialism. Same thing goes with communism. You can try to force things a certain way for a certain amount of time, and it's kind of like momentum. It'll carry on a little bit okay until you run out of money, you run out of other people's resources, you run out of crap, and then it all falls apart real quickly. That's what's happening right now. The feminism, the women's empowerment, that you can do your own thing and sleep with all the men and have men on rotation. The bill comes due. So get off your fat asses, pull out the checkbook, write the check for the bill that your mouth cashed. Do I have that in the right order? Something like that. You're making bills that your fat ass can't cash. Whatever. You know my point. I know the expression. For some reason, it's just left my stupid little head tonight at 11:30 in the evening. It's their own fault. No one feels sorry for them. But the men, yeah, some guys are still struggling. But seeing how military numbers are falling off and college numbers are falling off and dating falling off, and I think the men have just continued to adapt and women are just unable to, because they've always got the bailouts, they've always got the government, they've always got somebody saying nice things about them. And where men know, if I don't square this away, like if I don't get this going, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble and I got to adapt. And the men are, and the women aren't. Guys, if you enjoy my work, thanks again for standing this long into it. Make sure to join me on betterbachelor.locals.com. We've streamed football games. We're going to do the Super Bowl over there with my commentary instead of the commentary of the horrible commentators on football. We got movie night streams, a couple hundred guys jumping in and watching movies while we talk about life and share salty memes. Always a good time. $5 a month. That's all it is to become a supporter. Free speech forums. I'm the only moderator over there. And I pretty much let anybody say anything. So come on over. Join us today, guys. I'd appreciate it if you did. And we will see you in the next one.